Hi, I'm Bart Hanson, the owner and operator of CrushLivePoker.com. The following hand comes from our call-in show that we record at 4:45 p.m. Pacific Time every Monday. If you want to call in your hand, check out the phone number in the description. But
Okay,
does it get
I
folded to
will.
you? You're on the button, and then does it get folded to you?
No, so this is a very limp happy game, especially in PLO8.
Okay,
It's a lot of I'm 24, and I think most of the guys are at least triple my age.
okay, all right, cool. Yep,
Um, so there's a handful of limps. I look down at ace, 4-4 deuce the suit. I think that's a pretty good hand
it is a
in
pretty good hand. I mean,
PLO8.
the pair in your hand hurts you a little bit, but you've got a suited ace deuce and in backup 3 wheel cards. I could certainly see. So the limp is 5, right?
Yeah,
So
I think it's like three limps to me.
okay, so you could make this just 20 to build the pot up in position.
Mhm.
Depending on how badly these guys play, if they're playing all kinds of like middling cards and naked ace threes and ace fours and ace fives, if you've seen that happen, I think you probably lose a little too much by not raising. If you were playing at a bad table, meaning like the table was sort of tough, it wasn't all that good. I could see limping behind here too. It wouldn't be criminal to limp
Mhm.
behind here, but in the typical lineup of guys that probably don't know what they're doing, I think that I would raise for value in this lineup, but I don't think it's terrible to limp behind.
So I ended up raising the 25,
Mm-hmm.
and the small blind calls, and then the three limpers call.
So 3 limpers, hero raises to 25, right?
Mhm.
And 4 people call.
Yeah, we got a cold call and then the limpers call.
Okay. So the small
So
blind calls, right?
yeah, and small blind's main villain 300 effective.
Okay. So the pot is
Flop is Jack.
125.
Yeah,
Yep.
flop is Jack 4 deuce rainbow.
Jack, 4, deuce, rainbow. So this is very interesting. These are the spots I'm
Hmm.
talking about. So you've got middle set here. It's bad that you have bottom 2 pair here too, and you don't have a low draw.
Yeah, I have like zero low draw. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it checks to me,
Yep.
and I bet 50.
So it checks to you, and
Uh,
you bet 50.
which is a little small, but stacks are kind of short.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I bet big, I kind of let my opponents play too perfectly, but I obviously want to charge the low draw. But
But
when there's already two low cards on the flop, I'm not sure the percentages of how many times a low is going to come in on the flop and how much it's worth betting with no low strength.
well, here's what I would look at with this hand. You made it 25. The pot's 125. So and you were playing 300 effective, right? You said you started the hand with
Hmm.
300, right? So
Yeah, I have like 800. Some other guys have maybe close to me, but effective 300 and main villain has 300.
right. But it's important. So you have 800. Some other guys have more. Because I was going to say, if you started the hand with 300 here, and the pot was 125, so you only had 275 left. With this being no flush draws, I would just pot it and just take it down.
Okay.
You're only losing to
Hmm.
pocket jacks. Charge the ace threes. If you're up against ace 3 5, you're probably flipping. He might be I mean, ace 3 5 is always going to get in with you. Pocket fours might be a slight dog to ace 3 5 on this board. But your hand value actually increases because there's no flush draw to the point where if there was a flush draw out here, and there were 4 people in the hand, I wouldn't even bet the flop. I wouldn't even bet. I
That
would
was
just
my
check it
thinking. I thought
back.
that was actually
Yeah.
it's a bad low flop for me, but a really good high flop because I don't expect people to have pocket jacks, right?
Hmm.
The table's sort of bad in PLO8. There's obviously a lot of old man coffees, but I do
Yeah.
see people show up with like 10, like Jack 10, 8 7, like those middling cards that you
Yeah.
kind of want to avoid in PLO8. I do see people show up with those,
Hmm.
so hence why I agree with you on
It's
the
interesting because with
pre-flop
the
I should
board
raise.
being rainbow, here's the thing. With the board being rainbow, even if there are other guys with say 600, 500, if you bet say very large here like 100 or 125, and one of those guys
Hmm.
check raises you, what do you think that they have? Does that always represent pocket jacks, or can that be like ace 3, 5, 6 some of the time? You probably don't know that. I mean, I'm probably asking you a question that you don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
it's close. I think I don't expect most of the players in the game to have a check raising range on that board, actually, unless they have like Jack Jack Ace 3.
So,
That
I
might
mean, if
be
that's the case, then you could actually bet fold on the flop. I'm serious. Like, I mean, that's what I was thinking. Like, I think that like if you had
oh
bottom set here and no low draw, that's what I would do for sure. I would bet fold on the flop.
yeah.
Um,
I definitely make some exploitive folds in the game
yeah.
for sure. When guys lead into me, I'm pretty much one of the only guys that raises pre-flop in the game, even on the PLO
Hmm.
round.
Yeah.
And so a lot of guys will just lead into me or check raise me and just show me the goods, and I'm just like, okay.
Well,
I make a lot of exploitable folds.
okay, so moving along, like I said, if you guys were all around 300, I would just bet and get it in. Here, you decide to bet 50. I might bet a little bit larger, but you guys are deep,
Okay.
so whatever. You bet deep, meaning that like you're not going to just pot, and then if a guy check raises you, you're in a weird spot. So you decide to bet 50, and then what happens? The small blind calls.
Small blind calls,
Yep.
other table, rest of table folds.
Okay, so small blind calls, everyone else folds. So now the pot is 225, and he only has one pot size bet left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the turn?
The turn is, I think, like maybe the nut turn for me
Yeah.
is a 9. It's an offsuit 9.
Okay, it's
So
completing the
it's the
rainbow.
rainbow.
Yep. Yep.
So my opponent has 200 left.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, maybe like 225.
Yep.
And so the turn's a 9. He checks. And I think that's like almost the best card in the deck for me, right?
Of course. Yeah, you just bet it all in. It's
So
not even
I
a
like to
question.
bet 100
Okay, why bet 100?
because I thought at the time if I just pot and get it in, he's a tighter player. If he has like a jack and a low draw, he
Mhm.
might fold,
Yeah, but the thing is that
which I don't
this
really
is
expect him to show up with. I mean, he could have like ace, jack, 3 deuce, ace, jack, 4 deuce, ace, jack, 5 3.
Yeah, but you got to, I mean, if you're saying that you're experienced in PLO, right? You need to start wrapping
Mm-hmm.
your head around you need to start wrapping your head around the concept that in PLO8 and in Big O, there are a lot of bets that you need to make to deny your opponent equity. So, for example, if you were in PLO, right, and you had top set here. Let's say in PLO you had top set and there was
Mm-hmm.
a flush draw out there. You wouldn't bet smaller because you want a small flush draw to call, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Even if you had top set and like a low flush draw, you wouldn't bet small if you thought the guy had a high flush draw, right? Wouldn't you want him to
No,
fold?
I would definitely pot. I would
Yeah.
definitely pot jack.
So the problem here is that like you want a hand like ace jack and a low draw to fold. Because if a low comes in and he calls off, you're only winning half the pot. If you run
Mm-hmm.
through pro poker tools, I mean, I'm not going to do it now, but if you run through pro poker tools, any low draw, especially if he's got like an uncounterfeitable low draw, say he's got like ace jack 3-6 king or something like that, right? And especially if
Mm-hmm.
he's got a gut shot in there too, you absolutely want the fold. You're betting 100 into 225. Of course he's got 33%. Of course he has 25% equity. I mean, when you bet 100 into 225, he only needs 25% equity to call. He probably could call with a naked low draw, even with that correct price. But the thing is that just like in PLO, he doesn't know what you have, right? So you actually want.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like when somebody is forced to fold a flush draw next to act in a multi-way PLO spot when a guy bets the flop and somebody has like, an 8 high flush draw next to act with 3 people behind him, he can't call. But if he saw everybody's hands and no one else had clubs, he would call, right? So you actually want him to fold. You want to deny, and that's the same situation here because you don't have a
Yeah, I
low
mean,
draw.
I knew he had a really good low draw,
Yeah.
plus probably some kind of pair two pair.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that's the mistake I made. Maybe a little bit bigger on the flop, even with the effective stack size. And then yeah, would you just jam all 9+ turns?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then any low draw, you may check it back and try to take that the showdown
If the turn was a
off the pot.
disc, with one pot size bet left, the problem is that he called next to act. And if you're saying that everybody's nitty, he should have a pretty strong hand when he calls next to act on the flop.
Yeah, I mean, my alarm bells went off.
Yeah.
Definitely called flop. Like even pre-flop, calling out the small blind, cold calling the raise
Yeah.
is pretty strong. And when he calls flop, I'm like, man, like this guy must be decently nutted for the low draw. I mean, I don't expect him to have pocket jacks.
I would probably check back any low turn card because of the distribution of cards here. And the reason why is because of what happened here. He called next to act. There's no flush draw. So if the turn's an 8, he most likely is going to have you locked up, meaning that like he's going to have the low made and he's free rolling you, and he could have a gut shot or a double gutter or something like that. If the turn is any wheel card, it's the same thing. Unless you just know that these guys always bet the turn with a wheel. Like if a 3 or a 5 came out and he checked, does that mean that he never has ace 3? But again, you might not know that. But you've got a deuce, a 4, and an 8, which means he's most likely going to have a low and a straight draw. So on that distribution, yeah, I probably would, check it back. It might be a little bit different if the board had come out like Jack 3 deuce, and then the turn was like an 8, where the 8 doesn't really change anything. Do you see what I'm saying?
It's hard. I mean, he can make it low, but it's hard for him to have straight.
Yeah, I mean, he could have already flopped the straight draw. But you just got to remember whenever you're putting money in on the turn, when a low comes in and he has the low, he's free rolling you. Now an 8 is an especially bad card for you too. If a low card comes on the turn, you do pick up a live ace draw, but it's going to be still like a bad low draw. Like if a 7 comes on the turn, and then actually you don't have a live ace. Yeah, you do have a live ace draw. Like if a 7 comes on the turn and then the river's another low card, you do have a live ace, but the chances are you're not going to be good with the low. So you bet 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he calls with 125 behind.
Okay.
And then the river is, I think, the worst card. It's
Yeah.
7.
It's a 7?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One of the worst. I think a 7, a 7 and 6 are pretty bad.
Yeah, but you have to call though you have to call. No, I mean no. The worst card in the deck is a 5.
5.
Yeah.
3 makes the wheel.
Yeah, 5 makes a wheel.
Okay.
And then a 3 is probably very bad too because you lose to 5, 6. I would say a 3 and a 5 are the worst cards. A 7 doesn't. Wait a minute. The board's Jack 4 deuce 9, and the river is a 7. So, what am I? What?
No, I'm sorry. The river's a 6. The river's a 6, not a 7.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to think of the hand he turned over.
Okay, so the river's a 6.
River's a 6.
Okay. Yeah, I mean
River's
that's a pretty
6,
bad card. I mean, but I would still think that he could have 5-3 here for sure, but he only has 125. So
Yeah,
if he bets all
he's
in,
the 120.
if he bets all in, the pot's going to be 550. Well, actually, excuse me. He bets all in 125. So you're calling 125 to win half of 425. So you're getting about 2 to 1, right? You're not getting 5 to 1. You're getting 2 to 1. Or you're not getting, remember, because it's 120. You're calling to win half the pot, right? With the high with a set of jacks. So you're calling 125 to win 210. So you're actually just getting under 2 to 1. So you have to have the high here maybe 35% of the time. It's probably pretty close, but I think that he might just bet ace 3 here with like some other high hand. What if he's got like ace 3 jacks up or ace 3 9s and 6s? You know what I mean? I'm probably not going to call. Yeah, you're going to lose a fair amount, but I would call with a set of jacks here at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to have a ton of 5s.
Mm-hmm.
When he calls a small blind, I think he has like ace, king, ace, queen, plus 3 deuce.
Okay.
Maybe 4 deuce. 4 deuce obviously being less likely.
Well, he doesn't have 4
he
deuce
ended up
because he has no low draw, but you'd have to have 4 deuce with a low, like ace 4 deuce 5 or ace 4 deuce 3. But I think that he would get a lot of those hands in. That's a big flop. Ace 4 deuce 3 5. I mean, if he had ace 4 deuce 3, which is bottom 2 in the nut low draw, ace 4 deuce 5 to a lesser extent. I was thinking of big O, but so I'm assuming you called.
Yeah, I called it off,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up having the straight and the nut low. Ace 3, ace 5 3 something. He didn't have a jack.
Yep.
So I think he called me twice with nut low draw and open ended.
I mean, to be honest with you, if you bet all in on the turn, he still should call, so I don't think it matters.
Hmm. I think he pretty much had the nut
Yeah.
in there really.
I mean, he should never.
Nut
I
low
mean,
draw,
but
open
that's what
ended
I'm saying. If you ever
draw.
see a guy fold a hand like that on the turn, you can see the power of betting, right? Because there's no way in hell on the turn he's ever supposed to fold to a pot-sized bet. And if he folded there, that's what I'm talking about. Denying these old geezers some equity. You know what I mean? The proper equity.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think a little bit bigger on the flop and just absolutely smash all the big turns with
Yeah.
that middle set.
All right, man. Thanks for the
Okay.
call. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bart.
Hey guys, if you like what you've seen here, please click on the subscribe button and you'll get notified every time we put up a new video. And if you want to check out CrushLivePoker.com for the first month free, use the code YTA100. Click on the link right there.